Lights out, we're racing in MotoGP here in Brno, just like they did in the sprint yesterday. It's a great launch from pole position by Bagnaia. He's going to get the drop on the field, head of Marquez, Marc into the first corner. Quartararo just squeezed in front of Marco Bezzecchi on the factory Aprilia to keep hold of second place on the Yamaha, but it's Bagnaia who leads Marc here early on through turn 2.
Better start than yesterday for Alex Marquez, but he still didn't gain much ground off the start. Marc Marquez yesterday attacked into turn 3 on Bagnaia. He does exactly the same today.
Oh, and around the outside of Quartararo, that's brave by Bezzecchi. Is he going to make that work? He drops across the nose of the factory Yamaha rider going through 3. So Bezzecchi getting busy early on here. Immediately up into P3. Bagnaia's back through on Marquez, who ran wide on the exit 4. And now Bezzecchi, what a first lap this has been by Bezzecchi. He's already picked off Quartararo with an audacious move through 3. And now he's toughing it out with Marc. Into the stadium section we go.
So from attacking, Marc Marquez then being attacked into turn 5. So he's dropped a place to 3rd. Then it's Quartararo. And Pedro Acosta is running 5th place, up 2 places and back in that leading group as he was yesterday.
Oh, Bagnaia's got in really hot there, hasn't he? Into turn 13, and now he's going to have Marquez and Bezzecchi all over his rear tyre. Costa also looking to hunt down Quartararo, the KTM star in 5th. So Bagnaia lost all his momentum in that 4th sector, and now Bezzecchi levels him side by side. The 2 close friends go, and now it's Bezzecchi then that leads here for the first time. The Aprilia man taking full advantage of Bagnaia's slip-up in that 4th sector at the end of lap 2.
Bit of a crucial error for that Bagnaia. He's trying to rectify the damage immediately. Up alongside he comes, Marc Marquez. Surely he's not going to take 2. He is going to take 1, and he passes his teammate into turn 3 for the 2nd lap in a row.
Loves that turn 3 move on the brakes, doesn't he, Marc? So Bagnaia, well, he sort of trod on his own shoelaces, didn't he, going through turn 13 at the end of lap 1, and now he's back into 3rd place, trying to find a way immediately back through on Marc, down the hill, tricky down and braking zone, this into 5. Marc, though, just too good on the front end of that factory Ducati. Bagnaia has to sit in 3rd.
And Acosta's cleared Quartararo. He's now right behind them. Here comes Bagnaia into the stadium. He's trying to force his way through. There is no gap there into turn 7. Marquez was letting people through there yesterday. He wasn't letting Bagnaia through today.
Still with big interest in this top 6 is Mir on the factory Honda. He's now closing on the rear tyre of Quartararo. In fact, he's trying to think about a move there. 2 ex-MotoGP world champions, of course. Bezzecchi, this is not unfamiliar territory for him to be leading on the factory Aprilia. What is unfamiliar territory is to have 93 Marc Marquez right on his rear tyre. Plus 0.93 can put you in a rather uncomfortable position in MotoGP.
Just behind that Mir Quartararo battle is Alex Marquez in 7th place. So he has now cleared Raul Fernandez on this first lap and a half, and he's now trying to clear Joan Mir, but he's crashed in trying to do so. Marquez out.
Joan Mir caught up once again.
Bezzecchi sets the fastest lap of the race on a 1:54.4, but Bagnaia did a 55.1. He cannot match this pace in the early stages, which is why he's more under pressure from Acosta than he is pressuring his teammates ahead.
This is our 12th Grand Prix of the season. In 2/3 of them, Joan Mir has not seen the checkered flag, as Acosta now fires the KTM on the inside. Bagnaia, job done as far as the Spaniard is concerned on the brakes into turn 3. So now Acosta on course for what would just be his 2nd double podium in the MotoGP World Championship. I mean, poor old Joan Mir. Bastianini, coming into this Czech round, has shown nothing like being a podium contender, has he? In what's been a real tough transition over from the factory Ducati to the KTM. I mean, this is a case of if not when, well, it's right now. On the inside of Quartararo he goes. Beautiful move on the KTM by Bastianini. Superb early pace he's got here. He's going to be a podium threat, no question.
And Fabio Quartararo is disappearing away from the podium, unfortunately. Raul Fernandez through 2. I thought I saw Martin making a move in the back of the picture. The world champion is up into 8th place. He has just passed Jack Miller. Of course, an Aprilia leads this Grand Prix. The other Aprilia is on the move too.
Bagnaia's got nothing for the top 3 at the moment. Another punishing Grand Prix incoming for Bagnaia, and he's being closed down here, as you can see at the top of your picture, by his former Ducati teammate Bastianini. the Beast 4 tenths behind his fellow Italian. So Nea desperately trying to dispense Bagnaia ahead of him and then try and see if he can get back into the podium battle. Bastianini has got through on Bagnaia, so the Beast now, his charge through the pack just continues. This is the proverbial hot knife through butter scenario, isn't it? As far as the Beast is concerned, Bagnaia now his latest victim. Going to be interesting now to check the gap between Bastianini in fourth and Acosta in third. It's 1.2 seconds, and of course with ample time, we're only just coming up to third race distance here. Bastianini, the ultimate MotoGP tyre whisperer, has got so much time in his hands to maybe get himself into the top 3 hunts.
And absolutely nothing wrong with the turning of that KTM, was it? In the stadium section there, as Bastianini moved through. We're going to get him over the line now. He did a 54.6 even with the overtake, which is only a tenth slower than the leaders were going, as the pace has now dropped into the mid 154s. So, and Bastianini, good point that Jack made yesterday, in that he doesn't have any sort of mental baggage around this circuit from previous experience on a Ducati. Last time he rode any sort of bike here, Bastianini, he was winning the Moto2 race in 2020. So with a fresh mind and a clear mind on that KTM, he's doing a fine job on it.
Yeah, likewise for Acosta, of course. He was, that's a huge one. That's a huge crash. It's for Bastianini, and we're going to be keeping a close eye. Has the air fence been punctured? Because if it has, we will have to have a red flag. So the pace was just a little bit too hot for the Beast front tyre to handle. He's really frustrated. Look at that face of thunder from Bastianini, trail braking into turn 3. Oh, it just twitched. It twitched, didn't it? And then I think the rear twitched, it overpowered the front end there. And yeah, we're going to be keeping a close eye on the state of that airbag. Marquez, now he really is pounding the pressure on Bezzecchi here. He seems pretty content at the moment, just a ride slingshot, ride wingman behind Bezzecchi. The factory of Pretty Rider doing a great job at the front of this Brno battle. As it stands right now, we're about to complete lap 7 of 21. And it's Bezzecchi that leads by just over a tenth and a half. Acosta's almost 3/4 of a second back there in third place. Of course, the Beast exit has now given Acosta a 2-second buffer back to Bagnaia. And after what was their disagreement trackside, Alex Marquez and Joan Mir have finally got back into the paddock.
Well, Marc Marquez is going through. Look, top left of your screens. Marquez has finally made his move into turn 3. Bezzecchi, though, will now be on the outside for 4. Marc Marquez means him in no uncertain terms. Don't you think about coming back through? Yeah, Marc there just occupying the piece of tarmac that Bez so desperately craved. So we are, halfway around lap 8 of 21. And now Marquez has hit the front. So that little battle here has dragged Pedro Acosta right back in to the victory contention. A frustrated spectator looking ahead to this podium battle is Pecco Bagnaia, who was under pressure from Raul Fernandez. Yeah, this feels like already a massive statement lap incoming from Marc. Just look at the gap he's been able to establish already over Bezzecchi. A lap and a half he passed the Italian, and he's now already over half a second clear. Is the game already up in terms of the 2025 outcome in Brno, as Marc Marquez really is now getting the hammer down on the factory Duke? Of course, he's got an opportunity to absolutely maximise the damage to Alex Marquez in the World Championship. The lead is going to be 120 points if you put the flag out now. Poor Bastianini, who I think is as baffled as many of us were at the time as to what happened with that crash, because he was rampaging towards the podium positions. A very good weekend for Bastianini is going to end ultimately on this Sunday with no points.
After his well-publicised injury, Jorge Martin has made a sensational return to action. He's lapping just half a second behind Marc and Bezzecchi at the moment. As we suspected, yet Marc is just trying to ask some serious questions right now. Bezzecchi and Acosta, he's just pinged in his fastest lap of the Grand Prix, a 1:54.139. We go back down to Martin in 7th place, who's now starting to pull a gap between himself and Miller. He's 1.5 seconds back of Fabio Quartararo. But, I mean, Martin's back in the 54s. He's only 2/10 slower than Quartararo. This bodes well, doesn't it, for the second half of the season. A fully fit Martin, once he's fully back up to speed and in tune and dialed in with that factory Aprilia, I don't think podiums and even victories are going to be out of the question.
We are now entering the second half of the Grand Prix, though. Lap 11 of 21. The sprint yesterday was 10 laps, so we're now getting to the sort of realms of the longest runs in one go that Jorge Martin has done on that Aprilia since his injury. So I guess the biggest question about Martin in the second half of this race will be a physical one, but the fact he's still in the 54s just tells you how much talent and reserves of energy Jorge Martin has.
Was that the decisive moment? Was that the start of Marc Marquez moving towards, inching ever closer to a record-breaking 5th consecutive victory on the factory Ducati? You kind of feel at the moment he's rubbing their nose in it. He's kicking sand in their faces before he heads off on his holidays to the beach, isn't he? Marc, 53.691 on lap 15 of 21. Over the last few Grand Prix, he has delivered repeatedly masterclass after masterclass, hasn't he, the magician? And barring any late disasters, it's going to be win number 5 on the spin. It looks like, as we move into the final 10 Grand Prix of the season, there's only going to be one rider capable of beating Marc Marquez, and that's going to be Marc himself. This is just pace that's next level. As we said, he's just operating right now. So Martin said yesterday he's more qualified than anybody to discuss the merits of Marc Marquez's current performances. Martin said it is clear Marc right now is in a different league. Proof on your screens once again. So here is your race leader. It is still another thoroughly dominant performance being displayed here by Marc. How do you beat him? That is the massive conundrum. He has not been defeated since the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, and on that occasion, of course, he was one of a few riders that didn't really have the optimal front tyre underneath him. No excuses, which Marc never does lay, but you do feel that there was more potential with him. That's okay, over the line he comes in now. 2 laps to go this time around. We thankfully, for his, ours and all of you watching at home's sake, he doesn't have a transponder issue, and we can tell you that he's still 2.2 seconds ahead of Bezzecchi at the front of this Grand Prix. The battle between Acosta and Bagnaia is bubbling up very, very nicely, isn't it, here? The gap now under half a second. Still advantage Acosta in the battle for the final place on the podium.
Personal best for Fabio Quartararo on a 54.3. He took 4/10 out of Raul Fernandez. Probably going to run out of time, though, to take the Aprilia riders 5th place. Martin is still doing 54s in 7th place. What a job he is doing. Then we have, well, as Aldeguer now does finally go through on Binder, so this is the battle now behind Martin for 8th and 9th place. Miller 10th from Espargaro, Marini, Zarco, Agura and Rins.
Bagnaia gobble up on the brakes into 13.
Yeah, well, we'll see him briefly there on board with Bagnaia. Hopefully we're going to have a bit of a closer look at that to see how much he was catching and where he was catching. But the final lap is underway, and Marc Marquez is 1.7 seconds clear. He can cruise around this final lap to another Grand Prix victory, but Pedro Acosta does not have that luxury.
Bagnaia took 2/10 out of him in that last sector on that lap 20. We're on the last lap. Marc Marquez, well, he's on a mission right now, isn't he? And it's mission winning for fun in the MotoGP World Championship. Acosta's got it all on here. Can he hold Bagnaia at bay? It would be a brilliant double podium on his first ever visit to Brno for Acosta. Where can Bagnaia try and find an answer? We know how good he was in the last lap in the final sector. If he's close enough to attack Acosta on the brakes, maybe into 13 or sweep through to 14, you know he's going to have to go.
Does he have the front end confidence though to launch one on the inside of Pedro Acosta? We know it's something he's lacked throughout this season. He's around 0.4 of a second behind. That is just not close enough at this stage. With just half a lap remaining, we are now turning it left through turn 8 and up through 9. We have just 5 more corners remaining. 5
more corners standing between Marc Marquez and an historic 5th straight victory on the factory Ducati. It'll be painful for Bagnaia here to potentially miss out on the podium later on. Dishing out more pain is Marc, as he'll take his all-time Ducati successive winning record away. I don't think Bagnaia's going to have enough time here. He charged in hot through 11. That's game over. That is game over. Acosta has done a superb defensive job here. He's going to hang on to what is a very hard-earned 3rd place. But through turn 13 we go. 5 long years since his career was almost ended with a right arm fracture in Jerez in 2020. Fast forward 5 years and it's 5 wins in a row now in 2025 for Marc Marquez. He creates yet more history, the first Ducati rider to win 5 Grand Prix in a row. A sensational second by Bezzecchi. Pedro Acosta, for just the 2nd time in MotoGP, does complete a dream double podium.
Marc Marquez delivers yet another dominant display, becoming the first Ducati rider to win 5 GPs in a row. This time at Brno, after outpacing Bezzecchi's Aprilia and Acosta's gritty ride to P3.